In 1999, Morpheus offered Neo a choice between a red pill and a blue pill. In 2018, this country fractured between red and blue. In 2022, I'm here to tell you that if you really want the truth, more voters are neither red or blue. Yet, they have no representation, no choice, and no options. They have to choose between candidates chosen by the red people or the blue people. I'm David Esrati, and I'm running for Congress as an American, as in red, white, and blue. I'm a veteran, an activist, and a small businessman. I'm asking you to join me in reminding the professional politicians in Congress who their bosses are. I support ranked choice voting, campaign finance reform, and a verified voter information system, all so we can stop having the best politicians money can buy. It's time to elect a veteran who will work for you, no matter what color they want to label you. Please go to electesrati.com and learn more. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. Jurassic Park, you thought those little baby dinosaurs were cute until they turned into out-of-control carnivores. That's sort of what happens to government when we elect people based on very expensive advertising campaigns and propaganda. I'm David Esrati. I'm a veteran and a small businessman running for Congress. You don't want professional ad people and pollsters to sway your vote. All those hot-button issues like gun control, abortion, borders are all politicized to stop you from voting rationally. And thinking rationally seems to be in short supply these days. Most Americans have been voting against their own best self-interest for a long time because we've allowed money to buy our leaders. 1 million Americans died in the last 2 years because our leaders couldn't lead. It wasn't that hard. Mask, distance, test, and then vaccinate. In an instant, we had billions to spend on healthcare for COVID, when for years we've been told we can't provide healthcare for everyone equally in this country. That's an unintended consequence of the pandemic. If you think about it, our government can pretty much do whatever it wants, or what the people who buy our politicians tell our leaders to do. We also had a ton of money to prop up businesses. The next thing you know, it turns out that a living wage was not only possible, but necessary. As a small businessman who won't sell you out to corporate interests and lobbyists, I can tell you that it's time to fully understand the consequences of companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Google and their effect on small business, and to remind you that small business is the #1 creator of jobs in this country. So this next election, don't trust this ad or any other political ad. Do your homework and think before you vote. It's time to put this ad man in Congress because I know that the best advertising is based on the truth, not the size of the budget or payola. Or you can just vote based on who has the money to buy their way into Congress and live with the consequences. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. I'm David Esrati. I'm running for Congress. Welcome. Thank you for being here. This is my daily live stream town hall, so you can actually interact with the person who you want to have in Congress. This is something that Mike Turner has never done. He's never interacted with anybody unless you have a very large check for him. Then, of course, he'll meet with you and talk to you and everything else. In fact, I got a call today from a voter who asked me, he said he called Mike Turner's office and asked for their official statement about January 6th. Oh, we don't have one. He called me. I told him what I thought. And he said, you'll have my vote this November. Election day is November 8th. You get a choice between Mike Turner, the 10-term Republican, who twice failed to impeach Donald Trump, and who works for the base, or David Esrati, the guy he locked up so long ago when he was mayor for protesting the illegal secret meetings of the commission. So, Ohio District 10 has changed. It is now all of Montgomery County, all of Greene County as it was before, but instead of a sliver of Fayette, it's part of Clark County as well. So, today we're going to talk about the big money. And when I'm talking big money, I'm talking big money. So the campaign finance reports came in, and I've already talked about it. Turner raised over $1 million. I raised a pittance. But the interesting part is 79% of his money came from out of state. And his average donation was $1,617.61. Now, when Desiree Timms ran against him 2 years ago, he complained that a lot of her money was from out of state. I don't think it was more than 80% of her money was out of state, but I could be wrong. After all, Desiree was a sort of a carpetbagger flowing into town from D.C. and her Georgetown law background. Not the first time we've had a Georgetown law person run and fail. Sharon Newhart did that a while back. The reality is, my average donation, and I'm actually kind of shocked, is $326.66, but 84% of it is in state. Now, yeah, there's a few people out of state that, you know, I can excuse. One would be former UD President Daniel Curran, who now lives in Philadelphia next to the hospital that saved his life. And he's from Philly, so that makes sense. And I had a couple other donations from people like my cousin Rich in California, who happens to be an ad man better than anybody else out there. I mean, the guy's amazing. Anyway, so let's talk about who's buying your politician. Because when it comes to Mike Turner, there's a whole lot of people investing. And I just decided to do last night a short run through the people who had given the maximum donation. First on the list was Michael Bridges, owner of Peerless Technologies and formerly on the Board of Trustees at Wright State University, where he got a lot of government contracts at from Wright Pat, because, you know, Mike Turner works for the base. And he put Wright State out of business practically with his bad decisions. Bridges somehow made a bad decision, over-donated to Mike Turner, whether he's been refunded or whether it was because he forgot to put some of it in his mother's name or it was self-reported wrong. But he went over the limit, which for this campaign finance report, which was the half year, you're allowed to donate once in the primary, $2,900, and once in the general, $2,900. So the max is $5,800. And Bridges was up there way above that. But just looking through the people who had done the max both times, there were a bunch of people that sort of rung a bell. Or the companies that they worked for rang a bell. And it didn't take very long to figure out that there were 11 billionaires on the list. That's right, billion with a B. B as in Bravo. B as in bullshit. B as in Blackstone Group, where the CEO, Steven Schwartzman, Blackstone Group's a global private equity firm. He's worth a mere $30 billion. He contributed the max. Then you got Erin Osman, a Turkish-American woman who is CEO of Sierra Nevada Corp. They're a global aerospace company that just announced that they were going to build something out at the Dayton International Airport, which is not international, but I guess it will be when Sierra Nevada starts flying in sheiks and people from other countries to come buy their planes and their technology. She's worth $2.6 billion. Then, of course, there's the connection to the Home Depot. Now, I broke this story long time ago, that when Mike was still married to his wonderful wife, Lori, who ran the group marketing company, The Turner Effect. You know, that's the one that got over $1.5 million to brand the region Get Midwest, which was about as generic as saying, drive a car. Anyways, Lori had gotten work while Mike was on the military. I forget which legislative office it was, but it was one that dealt with military expenditures. She got work from the Army Corps of Engineers, and she also got to do work for the Home Depot Political Action Committee. They're in Atlanta. Why would they hire Lori Turner's firm in Dayton, Ohio to do their annual report? Good question. The only reason I knew about these two was because she entered them in the Dayton Ad Club's AAF competition, and I saw them with bronzes. Now, bronzes are not good enough to move on up, but hey, none of her stuff was that good. And apparently she decided her husband wasn't any good either because she moved on. But he got donations from both co-founders of the Home Depot, Ken Langone. His estimated worth is $5.9 billion, and his former partner, Bernard Marcus, who's only worth $5.43 billion. And of course, his wife Billy kicked in for another $5,800. So there's really 3 billionaires in those two donations, or in those two lines of Home Depot money. There was Ken Fisher and his wife Sherilyn of Fisher Investments. Both of them kicked in the max. That got 11.6. Then you have Charles Johnson of Franklin Resources. His net worth is $4.9 million. By the way, Fisher and Sherilyn, they're only worth $4.8 billion. And then we have Ronald Cameron, Monterey Poultry. I couldn't get an exact amount, and these numbers are usually bogus anyways, but he's worth over $1 billion. He's got a corner on the chicken market. But then you have Elaine Wald, and she's an heir to the Johnson fortune. She's listed in the Forbes 400, but I couldn't get an exact number on her, but trust me, Johnson & Johnson, she's doing okay. Then you got Jeffrey Palmer. He's a guy who does real estate, like apartment buildings. And he's got G.H. Palmer Inc. His net worth estimated at about $3.1 billion. Then you got Tom Siebel and his wife Stacy. They combined for, 11.6. They owned Siebel Systems, which you might not have heard of, but it was bought by Oracle back in 2006. Those two are worth about $3 billion. And last but not least, of the list of the max donations, we have John Childs of J.W. Childs Associates. He's worth $1.2 billion, so he kicked in as well. I've got all these listed on Esrati.com, and you can see exactly how much money these guys have and what states they're from and who gave. So, the question is, who do you want to have own your congressman? Would you prefer you did, or would you prefer a bunch of billionaires did? Because if we're talking about billionaires, the only thing the billionaires want is to have more B's in their billions. That's it. They want to keep moving that comma along as far as they can. They all want to be Jeff Bezos. The fact of the matter is, once you're worth $1 billion, you can't spend the money in your lifetime if you wanted to. Just the interest alone makes you a millionaire. So, 79% of his money came from out of state. And let's talk about it. What did Mike Turner give him back in the last 4 years under Trump? He gave those billionaires huge tax cuts. Huge. Well, you guys got zilch. All those people, if they get sick, they don't have to worry. They don't have health insurance. They just buy health care. The rest of us, we go to GoFundMe. Should we have universal health care in this country? Hell yes, we should have universal health care in this country. Will we have universal health care in this country as long as billionaires are buying your politicians? Hell no. So if you want to vote what's in your best interests, that means you got to get rid of the guy who works for the base and get somebody who works for you. I guarantee I'll do that. I'm a small businessman. I am in a position where it's almost impossible to provide health care for my employees. Some married employees have wives that have golden handcuffs with their health care plan, and if I offered health care, they'd have to take my health care, and she'd stay on hers. That ain't going to happen. Others, the costs are ridiculous. One of them has a pre-existing condition. Truth be told, most of us do have pre-existing conditions. It's called life. Health care is something that just doesn't work nicely for insurance companies unless they're making money at it. So, if you want universal health care and you want billionaires to pay their fair share, don't vote for the guy that's owned by the billionaires. Simple as that. I'd love to see some questions, or at least some of you tap in and say hi. I got to tell you that the Democratic Party is still pretty out of touch. I can't understand this, but apparently the state still hasn't figured out who won the primary in OH-10 or 2 other districts. They haven't listed 3 of us on their website. The DCCC, which is supposed to try to turn the House blue or keep it blue, they haven't reached out. They don't seem to care. And I'm happy to say I have 0 support from political action committees at this point. Talked to 2, neither one of them, oh, who's endorsed you, or what have you done, or how much money have you raised? I've heard the DCCC won't even talk to me until I've raised $500,000. For me to do that, I'd have to do what Mikey did. I'd have to sell out or promise things. It's just the people in this district don't have that kind of spending cash. And the truth is, Mike Turner's a vindictive jerk. So if you end up giving me big sums and he's in control of the money and you're expecting some government contracts or you're expecting some money invested in your community, he might just make your life miserable. Because that's what miserable lifer politicians do. They screw us. As long as they're happy and their donors are happy, they don't care. They don't even have a position when you call them on the phone. All right. So, I am going to the Montgomery County Democratic Party meeting tonight where they're going to try to figure out their constitution. A big part of the argument will be about endorsements. And again, I've never said that they should ever endorse in a primary. Let the voters decide. What they should do is work to help inform voters of who the Democratic candidates are that are on the ballot. That's what's important, so that the voters can pick correctly. Hopefully, we'll see a change there. Hopefully, they'll also finally endorse me, since I'm the only candidate they've got that's on the ballot. But that could be a problem, because Mohammed Al-Hamdani, the new chair, he says, well, you just shit on the party for 25 years. No, I haven't shit on the party. I've asked questions. Asking questions is not okay in Montgomery County. Asking questions is how we find out that Phil Plummer is still pepper spraying people in the jail in restraints when he said he wasn't. Asking questions is how we found out Adil Bagirov didn't live in the district. Asking questions is how we found out that Rhonda Kaur, who the Dayton Public Schools hired as their superintendent, was technically married to a woman that she hadn't divorced when she put her on the health care. It was crazy. There's so many things that go wrong in this community, including Joey Williams running for office while a confidential informant with FBI already having a plea deal in place. That stuff is wrong. So if you want to fix it, November 8th this year, you can vote for David Esrati and say this to the billionaires, because ain't no billionaires funding this campaign. I'm David Esrati. I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Hope you join us. If you want to find out more about my campaign, electesrati.com. If you want to make a donation, you can. Please sign up for the newsletter and you can get a weekly email about the campaign and what's happening. And please remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit the little bell for notifications so you know when we go live, and you can join us and ask questions or sit through it and watch. And I really appreciate the 2 people that stayed through this the whole time. I don't know who you are, but thank you. And it sure is nice having you instead of people heckling, because the hecklers weren't adding anything to the conversation. I don't yet know what we're going to talk about tomorrow, but if you have suggestions, please drop them in comments. I read them all. And we will see you tomorrow at 4. Thank you.